I'm all fluffy. Hello lovelies, and welcome to the September 2023 episode of the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast. My name's Leslie, also known as Knitting or Death on social media, but small aside, my email address is notquiteenoughYarn@gmail.com. There is a user elsewhere in the universe who has a Knitting or Death related sort of email address, and some stuff directed for me keeps going to her, so thank you to her for forwarding it on. But I'm notquiteenoughYarn@gmail.com. I often go off on tangents, as we've just heard, and this is a knitting podcast and general yarny stuff: crochet, weaving, spinning, machine knitting, all the good yarn things, recorded on the south coast of the UK. I record throughout the month and then put the pieces together and post them on the last weekend of each month. And it's just really my yarny adventures. It's called the Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast, despite the fact that I have lots and I love it, and I have been growing my collection this month, which I shall share with you shortly, because I rarely have enough of any one colour to make a single item. I buy single skeins because I like the colours, or I'm interested in the dyer, or for whatever reason, and so I stripe things, block things, fade things together. So I also do a weekly vlog. That's more life, the universe and everything, to which of course the answer is 42, and that goes up every Friday. So this goes up last weekend of the month. That's every Friday. There is a make-along running. This is the Craft for Someone Else make-along. So it's all yarny crafts. So if you're knitting a gift, if you're crocheting a charity project, if you're spinning yarn to give to someone else as a present, that's all eligible. It's run on Ravelry. There is a Not Quite Enough Yarn podcast group, and there are two threads on there: a finished object thread, which is a no chatter thread, and then also a chatter thread, which is a chatter thread. Took me a long time to think of that name. And please feel free to put your projects on both so that people can ooh, ah and coo over your finished items. But the chatter thread is for whatever you want to say. So, you know, if you're in the UK at the moment, could be anyone else feeling warm. Usually folks put on there, this is what I'm halfway through, what do you think of this colour, or they'll ask questions about the projects that they've seen. So great conversations on there, which is lovely to see, and great projects as well. So thank you to everyone who's taking part. There will be a draw at the end of this month. So at the end of this podcast, when we get to the end of the month, I will draw two prizes. There'll be a draw from the chatter thread, which will be for a pattern prize up to the value of, can't remember what I said, $15 US, I think. That sounds about right. And there'll also be a draw on the finished object thread for a physical prize, usually yarn. So if you have a few spare minutes and you're able to use Ravelry, it's worth getting on there. Some lovely projects. My queue always grows when I do a make along because I see projects that I wouldn't have otherwise seen. So thank you to everyone taking part. If you are unable to use Ravelry, please email me, and as I say, it's notquiteenoughYarn@gmail.com, and I will put your post onto the threads for you to have a chance at the draw. So thanks for that. The make-along will finish at the end of October, so I will actually announce the overall prize winners in the November podcast, because I'll be putting my podcast up at the last weekend of October, but there'll be a few days left, so I will deal with that in November, and you will see the winners then. That's the make-along. So, yarn acquisition. I've bought some yarn, which doesn't happen often, and when I initially started this podcast, it was a plan to get my yarn stash from 2 cupboards and some boxes down to 2 cupboards. It's now 3 cupboards plus. I keep being given yarn, and I'm very happy about this. So folks will, you know, come across some yarn that's being slung out and they'll sling it in my direction. My himself goes away a lot and he finds yarn shops and brings me back that. I don't drink alcohol, I don't wear a lot of jewellery, so yarn is a good present choice. So he is quite the enabler when it comes to my yarn stash. And for a long time I wasn't buying any yarn at all, but still my stash was growing, so I'm taking the alternative view now that if I buy some yarn, maybe I'll use some up. Who knows? Either way, not complaining. I had a lovely day on the 1st of this month meeting Joelle, who is a viewer, and she was in the UK. As I'm recording this bit, she's at the Scottish Festival of Yarn. Not jealous at all then. Now, it was lovely to meet her and her husband. If you want more details about the day and the shops that we visited, if you go to the vlog dated the 8th of September, that will cover my day in London with Joelle and her husband. But we went to a couple of yarn shops and bought some yarn. Yippee! Now, Joelle owns a yarn shop herself. She's in Napoleon, Ohio, and this is the Three Kittens Knitting yarn shop. I'll put the link down below to her social media. And she very kindly gave me a skein of yarn. So this fabulous gorgeousness, and you can see it's not showing up that well, but this is like a really dark purple stripe in here and amongst all these fabulous pinks. This is by Misfit Yarns and it's in the Girl Gang colourway. 463 yards, which is 425 metres, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. So a lot of pinks, we've got some kind of yellows, oranges, browns, we've got some purples. Oh, I'm going to have some fun with this. Don't know what yet, but I'm going to have some fun with this. So thank you, Joelle, for that. We went to a couple of yarn shops in East London, and the first one was Wild and Woolly, where I got this lovely yarn by the Wool Kitchen. And you can see we've got this grey along with the light. Now what's not really showing that well, that's better, is the light colour has lots of pops of kind of neons in it. And it's their 75% BFL, 25% nylon sock yarn, 400 metres per 100 grams in the Reverse Pop Grey colourway. So that was rather lovely. And when we were in Wild and Woolly, they said, have you been to Knit with Attitude? Now I knew it was in the same sort of ish part of London, but my understanding was it was a bit of a walk, which it would be, but it's on a bus route. And the owner of Wild and Woolly told us which bus to get and where to get off to get to Knit with Attitude. And when we were at Knit with Attitude, she also said, have you been to Wild and Woolly? So nice to see that collaboration and that supporting each other. And whilst in Knit with Attitude, I got this lovely Twisted Ambitions yarn. Now the sun is very bright here at the moment, so what's looking green, certainly on my camera screen, is more of a turquoise, lovely bluey colours. This is definitely more green. They look very similar on my screen, but they are actually quite different. It's the Tidal Wave colourway, it's the Sweet Sock yarn. So again, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 463 yards, so 43 metres. And it's a 4-ply yarn, 100 grams, and just beautiful colours. So that was a lovely yarn acquisition day, and we chatted a lot and went and had lunch, and Joelle also kindly gave me some chocolate and some treats for the dog, and I felt very spoiled. But it was lovely to meet her and her husband, and just a nice day. So all good fun. All good fun. Then my himself came home. He had been watching our nephew play golf in Sandwich, which is not that far away from us. Far enough away that it's best to stay overnight, which he did, in a place called Deal. And nephew's round finished earlier than expected, so he had some time to wander around the town and found a yarn shop. I hadn't even looked for yarn shops. When I know he's going somewhere and I think he's going to have a bit of time to fill, I will look at yarn shops and say, oh, this looks nice, or that looks good, or whatever. But I hadn't even looked because I wasn't expecting him to have any time or inclination to buy yarn, because he's very generous. So although I do sometimes look for him, I don't expect him to buy me yarn every time he goes away. Very grateful if he does, but I don't expect it. But he found a yarn shop which had this fabulous James C. Brett yarn. It's called Shh Double Knitting. And I've got 2 different colourways here. The makeup is 80% acrylic, 20% wool, 550 meters per 100 grams. So a lot of yardage here, and gorgeous colours. Again, it's coming up a little bright, it's being washed out a little, but these are sort of darker purples that you can see here, along with these pinks, and then a lot of sort of peach and yellows and browns and greens in this one. So very pretty yarns. So I'm feeling very spoiled. Don't know what I'm going to make. Got a possible idea for these. I'm chewing over an adaptation of an existing pattern at the moment, so that may well be what those 2 become. With the singles, I don't know yet, but I will enjoy working with them when I do so. So that's about it for this month so far. I'm continuing to spin. I'm currently working on some Witchcrafty Lady fibre. I've got a bobbin and a half done of what will be a 3-ply yarn, so I'm about halfway through that. So hopefully I'll have that to show you later on in the month. I've nearly finished what feels like the never-ending test knit. This was a test knit that I started a couple of months ago, and then due to various circumstances wasn't able to finish on time. So I did take my foot off the brake a bit there at that point, because once the deadline had passed, the urgency wasn't there, and I was working on a couple of other little bits. So that I really want to finish because I'm quite close to it now, so I'm hoping you'll see that later this month. And then we'll see where the knitting and crochet muse takes us. See you later. Cheers. Hello, lovelies. I've got a finished object. I've finished the test knit sweater. Yay! I'll put some pictures in of me wearing it. I've just put it on to take a few pictures. It's still quite warm here, so not going to be wearing it while I talk about it, but here it is. So this beast of a garment, as you can see, it's big. It's not blocked, but it's big. This is the Chroma sweater by Jacqueline Sislak. Apologies, going off at a tangent, if you can hear traffic noise. I've got the window open because of the good weather, so I hope that's not too noisy and distracting. So yes, this is the Chroma by Jacqueline Sislak, which was released a couple of weeks ago, so sort of beginning of September, end of August. I had initially been one of her testers. Unfortunately, due to family commitments, I wasn't able to get it done within the time. But I then bought the pattern because I felt a bit bad, because I'd been given a free copy of the pattern because I was testing it. Now, I'm sure Jacqueline Sislak has no idea if I bought a copy or not, but I know I have, and it's my conscience I have to live with, so there we go. So yes, I bought the pattern and finished the sweater. And as you can see, it's a very oversized sweater. Now, because I was no longer doing a test, I could make more modifications than I would otherwise have done, because that's how I knit. One modification that I had already made was to make the body longer. The lower part of the body, I just knitted more rows before I changed colour. I just felt the original pattern would be more cropped than I would like to wear for a sweater this warm and thick, so made that slightly longer. Other modifications I have made, I made the sleeves slightly shorter. All I did for that was I took a few rows off the ribs at the cuffs. I just felt they were getting a little bit long, and I like a short and a snug sleeve, so that's what I've got on here. Now the main sort of change I've made from an overall concept point of view, which sounds far more grand than I mean it to, the initial design is either for a 2-colour sweater or a 4-colour sweater. I've made a 3-colour sweater. When I'd made one pocket and one sleeve, which would be the configuration if you were doing the 4-colour, I had an awful lot of the yarn left over, and I just thought rather than crack into another colour, it makes a lot more sense to make it a 3-colour. So that was one kind of overall concept change. The other was I striped the neckband. The initial pattern has a plain neckband, same colour as this part of the sweater. I decided to stripe it using the other 2 colours within the sweater. I've also done a little bit of sort of Swiss darning or duplicate stitching here. That just helps me know the back from the front when I put it on. There is a difference because there are some short rows at the back to make that a little longer, but when I'm holding the sweater up, it's easier to spot at the neck where the back is. So I've just put a little triangle of duplicate stitch in there to make that easy. Generally I'm pleased with it. I'm still at the good lord, it's taken me ages, I'm a little bit sick of it at the moment stage. I don't know if you ever get like that with an item that takes a long time. And I realise that's a relative term. Some people can do a sweater a week, other people do one a year. You know, everything is relative. But this felt like it was taking a long time. I suppose because there was that deadline that I watched whooshing by me. So when I feel like I've spent an awful lot of time on a project, sometimes you can get a bit, yeah, I've had enough of this for the moment. And that I'm at that stage. That doesn't mean I don't like the sweater. I like it very much. I think I will get a lot of use out of it because it's very cosy. It will be lovely and warm. But I'm just at that, I'm going to put it away for a while because I'm fed up with looking at it stage. The yarns, my main yarn, this fawn colour, is Rowan Pure Life in the Ivy colourway. And ivy because I've been informed that's what was used to dye the yarn rather than because it looks like ivy. So that makes sense. The deep red, I'll show you that on the back because it will show up better. Now this is the same deep red that I used in the many shades of red sweater I made a few months ago. And this is James C. Brett Legacy. So I think they're both 100% wool. I think so. And my third colour is a hand dyed from Perrin Yarns, and I got this a long time ago, so I dare say they don't still make the colourway. This is a merino silk mix, which means it will probably pill a lot, but that's fine. And that was another reason for putting the stripe in around the neck, because it's softer than the Rowan. I mean, the Rowan's not bad, don't get me wrong, but it's softer, and I thought that would be nice to have kind of nearest the neck. So the pattern gives you both colour configuration options, and there's also an option for bigger pockets, because with the 2-colour one, that has one larger pocket rather than 2 smaller. So the idea being, if you were 4-colour, this sleeve, this pocket would be 1 colour, this sleeve, this pocket would be another. So it's fun. It's a fun sweater. And it will be incredibly warm and cosy. It'll be a great throw over sweater for casual days. You know, nipping to the shop sort of sweater. I don't know why I do that voice, I'm so sorry. It was a lot of knitting. Because it's so oversized. You're talking, you know, a large stitch count. It's worked bottom up, and then you do a three needle cast off on the shoulder. And this was a different kind of 3 needle cast off than I had done before, so it's nice to do something new. Also, I'm liking this neckband. So it's a rolled neckband, as you can see. I'm not giving away all the secret sauce, but I like that. It has a nice look to it and was very straightforward to knit, so that's a win. Yarn quantities. Now I made the largest size. I can't remember what that is. Big enough to cover the average house, I think. My total yardage was something like 1,630 something meters. I know I often say yardage and then talk in meters. So my meterage was about 1,630 something. The Pure Life, so the beige, was 787.5 meters. The red was about 636 meters, but again I made it slightly longer than the original pattern. And then the Perrin, the orange, I used about 215 meters. So you can see that had I used two different colours, I would have started two balls of double knitting weight and only used a small proportion of them. So that was why I was glad to use it both sides. Also, I think this colour goes well. The other one I'd chosen maybe wouldn't have gone so well. So that's that. So I'm very pleased with it. I'm very pleased to have finished it. And like I say, there are some elements of it that I very much like and would probably do again, this neckline in particular. But right now it's too hot to wear and I'm fed up with looking at it. Please, you know, let me say again, that is nothing to do with the quality of the pattern. The pattern is very clear. Everything is included that you could possibly need. Very good instructions. I'm just fed up with looking at it because that's pretty much all I've worked on for a month. So apart from those little mittens I made last month. So I will be putting this in the cupboard, ready to wear. I'm not going to bother blocking it. I don't think it needs it. So I'm going to put it in the cupboard, ready to wear when the weather turns. And I look forward to using it this winter. No doubt you will see it in future podcasts because I'll be wearing it. Cheers. Hello lovelies, my little bauble of ends is positively brimming this month. They used to say of golf balls that they contained, bear in mind a golf ball is kind of that size, they contained enough feathers to fill a top hat. Now I don't know if they meant the kind of top hat that I've got, kind of this size, or whether they meant the stovepipe type, but either way that's a lot of feathers in a small space. But I digress. Why do I have so many ends? Because I have finished other things. Ta-da! So I have finished the crochet boxy that I had started some time ago. And I've left my bit of paper over there, but I think I can remember all the information. So this is my own pattern based on the boxy by Joji Locatelli. So it's basically a re-engineering, taking the stitch count back to measurements and then working it out as crochet. Which to some of you sounds very straightforward, to other people sounds terrifying. It is very straightforward if you're happy working the numbers back and forth, so not to be scared. I have been asked in the past about releasing the crochet boxy pattern as the knitted boxy pattern. Boxy? Welcome to the boxy. As the knitted boxy pattern isn't mine, it's Joji Locatelli's. I don't feel I can release the crochet version, but there are other boxy style crochet sweater patterns around in various weights, so just look for kind of loose fitting crochet patterns and you'll find it. So this is mine. I will put some pictures here of me wearing it. I was finishing this while I stayed at my sister's house the other weekend when I was looking after her dog, and I ran out of yarn. I had not quite enough yarn for what I'd originally had in mind, but we make it work. We always make things work. when I first started this, I didn't know that I would have enough of the multicoloured yarn, and so I started with a plain brown, and this is a cone that I got as part of a, I think it was like a free on Facebook type of situation, free cycle, something like that, just a selection of cones. So I don't know what it is. I'm pretty sure it's 100% acrylic. It's quite a fine weight, and it worked pretty well with this, so I was delighted with that. What I should have done is taken that cone with me when I went to my sister's, and could have done something similar on the sleeves, but it's okay, it's fine. The main colour here is Dennis Brunton Designer Yarns Magicolor. I don't know what the colourway is. It's coming up, certainly on my camera screen, it's coming up a bit stronger in colour. This is a little more muted than it's showing on there, but you're definitely getting the stripe effect. So very straightforward pattern. Worked in the round until the arms, then I split for the sleeves, worked back and forth on the back and front, put in a few, did I do any short rows on the back? Nope, doesn't look like it. Did some shoulder shaping, all as per the original knitted boxy pattern, and at this point I realised I was running out of yarn, so I did my neckline. And then I took the yarn that was left, split it in half, and kept going until I ran out. So this has ended up as a cap sleeve, short sleeved, more of a tee than a sweater. But that's fine. Certainly over the dresses that I use for work, I'm happy with it as a tee. Used about 1,500 metres of yarn. I say about because I didn't weigh this round stuff before I started. I'm not sure I have an accurate measurement on that. I would have to work it out, but I am very happy with it. I think it will be quite a useful layering piece. It's not too bright, like I say, it is a little more muted than it's coming up on my camera screen, so it's not going to be too kind of in your face if I use it in a work situation. If I'm going to visit someone, it wouldn't be too loud. So there we go, an FO, and one I'm rather pleased with. The yarns are 100% acrylic. They're classed as a light fingering or 3-ply weight, so quite fine. I did this on a 3.5mm hook, so quite a large hook for the thickness of the yarn, so it gives it quite a soft drape. As it is 100% acrylic, experience would suggest that when I launder this, it will relax and go a little bit baggier, which I'm fine with. So yes, a finished object that I think will be a very usable item. I have another finished object of a different nature. Every day while I watch Barbara of the Flame and Fibre podcast, I spin. And her daily vlog is 10-15 minutes, that sort of length. So it's a good length to do a little bit of spinning every day, but doesn't eat into a huge amount of your day. So it's an easy routine to build in. And I have finished my latest skein. This is 100% merino from Witchcrafty Lady, as many of my fibre braids are, because I am a fan of her fibre. The original braid had 121 grams. I've actually got 115 grams in here. I've done it as a classic 3-ply, so you spin 3 singles and then ply them together. Doesn't matter how much you divide it by weight, how much one divides it by weight, because I'm not going to say all spinners are like me, but I still have bits left over, and I have a bobbin that I'm putting together of all those leftover bits when I've got, you know, I've spun 3 and then one runs out. Sometimes I'll make a plying bracelet of the second. If there seems to be a lot more on the second than the third, I'll make a plying bracelet and have that going, which I think I may have done on this actually. So I just put a little bit on the my spares bobbin. But yeah, classic 3-ply. And as I was spinning this, you can see we've got a bit of variation in colour here. So when I split the yarn, split the fibre, sorry, rather than splitting down the braid, I just split it as it went. And it occurred to me I could have done it all in one go and chain plied it and have it as a nice gradient. I didn't do that, but I'm liking the way it's turned out. So we've got bits of colour. I mean, the title, the colourwork title, colourway title, apologies, Memories of Summer, is perfect because we've got oranges, blues, greens, bit of purple in there, so lots of great colours. And it will make a nicely knitted up yarn, I think. It's come out at about sort of 12 to 14 wraps per inch, so somewhere around a sort of heavy sport to DK weight. It depends which, before people come at me with that, it depends what you're looking at. On my wraps per inch gauge, I've got one chart of how many wraps per inch per weight. On Ravelry there's another, no doubt on the Craft Yarns Council there's another, so it's, by eye, I would say it's somewhere between a sport and a DK, and the wraps per inch kind of bears that out. Being hand spun, being my hand spun, there is variation in the thickness as we go along. So my consistency, I think, is getting better, but it's not as consistent as I would yet like, which is why we practice. And we do a little bit every day. But I'm very happy with how it's turned out, and actually you can see the difference in colours there, which is coming up beautifully. So I am looking forward to using this, and I was thinking about my hand spun, as I'm producing quite a bit at the moment, and what to use it in. Now the last thing I spun, oh, that's not gone well, the last thing I spun, I'm making a pair of mittens from that. This, I think, will probably go into a sweater. Did I tell you I've got 196 metres in my 115 grams? So again, we're looking at kind of DK weight-ish, that kind of area. And I'm thinking of a sweater which is worked at a fairly loose gauge. So something like a Love Note or Ranunculus, where you use, say, a DK weight yarn but a larger needle than you would expect. Would work, because I think that will then be quite forgiving of the thick and thin nature of my hand spun. So that's a possible plan. But looking at the next fibre I have on the wheel, I'm not sure I'd put these colours right next to each other, or maybe I would, because we know that I mix colours. Again, it's coming up very bright. I think the light in here, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily put those together. The light in here is making everything quite bright. This is a bat that himself got me on a trip earlier this year, and we have some fabulous bright pink. The way I've split it, so when you roll out a bat, you just have a big sort of sheet of fibre with all the fibres within it going in the same way. So one of the ways to spin a bat, and there are many, is to basically tear from one side, tear a strip not quite all the way up, then tear another not quite all the way down. So you end up with a sort of zigzag from your original rectangle, your original sheet, which is why I've got this slight corner here. And then spin. So you're basically spinning from up and down the bat, but you've split it to do so. So this is, I don't know what the fibres are, they're quite soft, mostly soft. There are a few sort of silky bits in here, I think. There's the odd bit of glitter. And we'll see how we go. It's spinning up quite fine. And I say these things as if I have absolutely no control over that. And that's because I kind of don't. I should have, I could have. But the way that I spin, I just kind of go with what the fibre wants to be. And some will go very fine, some will go thicker. Yes, this is all in my control, same as, you know, we can knit or crochet tightly or loosely. But I'm just kind of being guided by the fibre. It's a very mindful practice for me. I just kind of go with what feels right whilst listening to Barbara, which also feels right. but I just kind of go with what feels like it wants to be. That probably sounds like a load of old nonsense, but hopefully not. Yes, so a very productive month compared to the last couple, which I'm rather pleased about. Cheers. Hello lovelies. Coming towards the end, so I've got the prizes to draw, which I've drawn, prizes to announce, and roundup of whips, and we'll be there. Yay! So first of all, the make-along prizes. These are the prizes for entries between June and September. So what I'll do is at the end of October, or rather at the beginning of November, so it'll be in the November podcast, I will do the grand draw for the whole period of the make-along. So this is for the 3 months, June to September. And first of all, on the chatter thread, I pulled between 302 and 609, they're the post numbers, used random number generator, and the winner was post number, I didn't write it down, but it was Jane from Skelmersdale. Now Jane is a regular commenter on the vlog. Hi Jane. And she was responding to another viewer who was commenting on a thing that Jane had made. Jane's username is JC212. So just let me know that you've seen this and what pattern you would like, and I will get that to you, Jane, and congratulations, thank you very much. The finished object prize, haven't bought the yarn yet. I will, I'm sorry, I haven't got very organised, but there will be a yarn prize, and that was between post number 193 and 482. It came up as post number 475, and that was from 4 Pines Knitting, who is Lynn in Maine, and she'd made a charity hat, a rather fine one. So congratulations, Lynn. If you can just get in touch, so you can get in touch via Ravelry or Instagram, or email me on notquiteenoughyarn@gmail.com and confirm your address, because I know you've had a prize from me in the past, but people move house, we understand this. So if you could let me know the right address for you, I'll get a skein of yarn in the post. Thank you to everyone who's taking part in the MAL. Some great projects on there, so thank you very much. And congratulations to Jane, JC212, and to Lynn, 4 Pines Knitting. Just get in touch, let me know you've seen this, and we will sort your prizes out. So thank you very much. Whips time. Roundup of whips. Last month I only had one finished object, which was a pair of mittens I'd made for my dad, and I said I wanted to make a pair out of my hand spun that I finished last month, and I've got one of them done. So this is a drops pattern called Grey Paradise, I think, and made from my hand spun yarn, which was from a sort of mystery bat that I'd been given as a gift. I'm very pleased with how it's knitting up. So the pattern is for mittens in full. I wanted to be topless. The pattern is designed in garter stitch, designed to be knitted flat. I've done the usual rib, stocking stitch to here, and then a broken rib, so 1 row knit, 1 row knit, 1 purl one, so that it didn't curl, but that I had a long enough piece that I could fold over if I need to. I've started the second one, I'm just about halfway through the rib on that one. They will be fraternal twins rather than identical, because there's a lot of this red colour at the bottom of the next one, but they'll be close enough to know that they're from the same sheep, hopefully. So that is a single mitt, a hoe, a half finished object. Because I had finished 2 sweaters, the test knit and the boxy, I carried on with 2 sweaters, and one I haven't got very far on. I started and I was all enthusiastic, and then another idea came into my head and I got even more enthusiastic about that. So this is a Magpie Tendency by Skinanigans. But I'm going to do this slightly differently because I'm going to make it into a cardigan rather than a top. So I'm going to have long sleeves, which there is a suggestion for in the pattern, but rather than make it into a tee, I'm going to make it into a cardi. So that's as far as I've got. Very unusual construction, so it looks very odd at the moment. I did start knitting it during Knit Night with lots of lovely people, hosted by Barbara of the Flame and Fibre podcast. So I knitted this first panel and then thought, I really don't like that fabric. So I unpicked it and then went down a needle size. No, I'm not gauge swatching. I like to live dangerously. So that's as far as we got. The yarn, I have two of the same yarn but different colourways, but they do have overlapping colours, so I'm hoping they will work well. And the yarn is that. So Nako or Nako Mohair Special Romantic Jacquard, and it gives you an idea of how it will knit up on the label. So I've got this one with the red in. This is actually showing the same picture, so that's not helpful because this is all greens and into browns. So between the two balls I should have enough to make the cardigan the length that I want and with the sleeves that I want. But there'll be a change. I might fade it in, I might block it in, it depends kind of how we're doing at the time. I like to keep things free and open. So that there will be more done on next month. Now the other thing that I got very enthusiastic about was a bog coat. Now some of you may well be familiar with the bog coat. I hadn't come across this before. It's called a bog coat because there was one found in an archaeological dig that had been preserved in a bog, and it's basically a coat or a jacket that's made out of one square of fabric. And it's very clever because you take your square of fabric and you just cut about a third of the way down, fold the top over and that's your sleeves, fold the rest around and that's your body, and then just sew up as you need. Very clever. Obviously that would be far too easy, and I'm not going to cut knitting, especially not that way because we're not talking steeking here, and I don't steek anyway. But I thought this could be a warm and cosy project if I were to use my whirly whirly machine, which I have started to do. The yarns I'm using were recycled from a project that I'd made a circular crochet jacket, which I was never wearing. It was too long, it was too heavy, it was just, it wasn't working for me. A couple of months ago, I took that apart and unpicked it, and I started to make a Harvest by Tin Can Knit. Now the Harvest is a wonderful pattern, but it wasn't working for what I wanted. The construction of the Harvest, and it's a free pattern so I can talk about it, is you start off making a band, which is the top part of the neckband. I'm going from memory here because it's a while ago I did this, but then you pick up and you kind of work down and incorporate that bit of the band. I'm not doing this well. Look at the pattern, it's free, it's a great pattern. Tin Can Knits do great patterns. For me, what I wanted was with the Harvest, I knew I was going to have different colours because that's what I do, but I did want all the band to be the same colour, and that wasn't working because of the construction of that particular thing. So I just found I wasn't working on it, and that's normally a sign that I'm not happy with how things are going, and I'm probably better off just starting again. So that's what I've done. So I've started making panels on the Whirly Whirly machine. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, that is an Addy Express king size, so it's a 46 needle machine, and it's Whirly Whirly. I've made panels, I've made the colours in blocks along the panels so it'll give a kind of patchwork effect, and this will be a cold weather jacket. My dog walking jacket, the zip's broken and it's kind of coming to the end of its natural and I thought this would be a good dog walking coat. Not a weatherproof one, but my other one wasn't. I have weatherproof coats for when I need them. This is for warmth. So here's a picture which I will try and put in the bottom half of the screen so that you can see it as I'm talking about it. So rather than make a whole panel and then cutting it, no point in that, I've just been putting the strips together and I'm working my way down. So what we've got at the moment is one of the sleeves is sewn up. I was hoping to get the other cuff knitted and the sleeve sewn up and be able to show you it as a kind of top half of the thing, but I fell asleep, so that didn't happen. Sorry. So I've got this picture instead of where I'm at, but it's okay. Being made on the Whirly Whirly machine, it is very, very quick. One of those strips, which is kind of 7.5 inches of the sweater, you can do in an hour or under, so very quick to make. Because these are tubes that are then sewn together, and I will go into a lot more details next month when it's finished, it's a double thickness, so it will be a very warm, cosy jacket, which is why it's an outdoor thing. There's no point me having something like that for indoors. I won't use it, it'll be too warm. But for outdoors, it should be good. So those are my main whips. I am still working on the Penguono by Stephen West. I'm not having a lot of fun with that. I rewrote the pattern because this pattern was written by Stephen West at a time when the only way he made bigger sizes was by using bigger needles and thicker yarns, so you end up with thicker sweaters. So I tried to reverse engineer and redesign it, and it was working, but then my gauge changed as I was knitting, which is a little frustrating. So I'd left it for a while because I was working on the test knit, and then when I went back to it, I thought, I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm not sure I'm having fun, and I'm not sure I'm going to like it that much when I'm done. I feel like I want to persevere with it because I've worked on quite a bit of it already, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. It might just be abandoned. We shall see. Time will out. So those are my main whips. I mean, there are a few other bits on the go, and when I finished my mittens, I do want to make another pair for my dad. He's doing well. He's doing well at home. Since he's been home, he gets a coldness in the end of his fingers. And at first I thought it was circulation, so I was going to make him some sleeveless mitts or, you know, wrist warmers. But because he's had the spinal injury, we realised this is actually neurological rather than circulation. So just warming up these points isn't necessarily going to help. So I need to make him another pair of mittens. I have spoken to him about colours, because the last pair I made was in some grey acrylic yarn, and absolutely fine because you can just throw them in the washing machine, you know, regularly launder them. The wool that I've got, the superwash wool I've got, tends to be a little brighter, and he's a fairly conservatively dressed gentleman usually, so I have said, do you mind if they're a little bit more colourful, and he's fine with that. So I'm not going to go for really neon patterns, you know, but it will be something that's not necessarily grey or navy. So that's also a project in the soon pile. So apart from that, nearly October, my goodness me. Yes, getting towards the end of the year. Definite feel of autumn. I know I'm just in shirt sleeves today, but it does feel as if we went from summer to autumn pretty quickly. And it's a good time of year. It's a sweater knitting time of year, so we like that. What have I got lined up? Nothing terribly exciting. I mean, nice things, don't get me wrong, but no trips or anything like that at the moment. So we'll just plod along and see how we go. Yeah, I had a bit more time to craft this month, which was nice. Partly because I spent a weekend at my sister's looking after her dog, and I took my laptop with me to do some work, but it was pretty much crafting time, so I took advantage of that, which is when I got a couple of bits finished. And yeah, we'll see what October brings. Getting close to winter. I hope everyone's okay. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being part of this little corner of the internet. YouTube is being a bit naughty at the moment. Well, I think they are. This is a monetized channel, and the money that I make, which is not vast, I'm not, you know, sitting on piles of gold here, but the money I make comes from adverts, and it goes towards prizes, postage, those sorts of things. I always set my adverts with as little advertising as possible. I don't like mid-roll adverts. I don't like them as a viewer. If I'm watching a video and a mid-roll advert comes up, I turn it off. I don't sit and wait for the second half. So I don't put them on my videos. All of my ads are currently skippable, so you should be able to get rid of them after about 5 seconds. And I know some people kindly sit and watch through them to give the income to me, and I'm very appreciative of you, but no one should feel obliged to sit and watch an ad. That's not it. I know YouTube has to make its money. I understand that. It is a business and has a business model. But what they're now doing is, from November, they are changing how I can set the ads on my channel. So it does mean that ads may not be skippable. It does mean that ads may be mid-roll. I'm having some thoughts about that. Trying to kind of get a thorough understanding of what it's going to look like, so I can make sure that my perception of it is correct. I may demonetize the channel. There still will be giveaways and prizes and that sort of thing. I'm lucky and happy to fund that. But yeah, it's just a bit frustrating, really. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. Now, if you go onto YouTube, they're doing it to improve the user experience. I don't think we believe them. No one's ever improved a user experience to lose money, have they? So, stop being sceptical, Leslie. So things may change, but we'll see how we go on that one. And you'll probably find other podcasters having similar conversations. I was watching Aquila from The Lefty Knitter the other day, and she was discussing the same sort of thing, because she has her settings in the same way as mine, that everything, you can get rid of the ads as soon as. So we'll see on that one. It's a little bit frustrating, but life is, and we have to get used to that. Have a good October, everyone. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you for all your thoughts, all your comments. Please do enter the mail if you'd like to. As I say, I won't be announcing the prizes next month. I'll be drawing them at the end of November, so I can make sure that I cover everything up to and including the end of October when I pull those prizes. But I think that's it. So thanks, everyone. Take very good care of yourselves. Keep well, keep safe, and I'll see you soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.